The Federal Tactical Training Compound, known more brutally as the Guardian Tactical Academy, felt carved out of something unforgiving and cold. Perimeter fences, wound tight with razor wire, promised little forgiveness. Inside, the sun threw long, stark angles across a wide yard where gravel crunched under the boots of a new wave of recruits. The place was a grid of steel and concrete, with shooting ranges and tower climbs promising endless, brutal days ahead. It was into this harsh light that Amelia Vance stepped out of a transport van. She was different, older for one, and her left leg carried a slight, almost invisible hesitation in its step. There were no flashy, customized patches on her plate carrier, no slick holsters or designer gear, just standard-issue equipment, fitted without any pretense or flair. A single worn notebook jutted from her front pouch, its corners soft with use. A pale, raised scar marked her right knuckle, a memory from some unknown past. Marcus Thorne, all sharp jaw and tactical shades, saw her first. He was in line, arms crossed, sizing up everyone around him. "Excuse me, ma'am," he called out, the word dripping with sarcasm. "Mess hall's that way." A few chuckles followed, a small ripple of easy cruelty. Amelia didn't flinch. She kept her hands relaxed at her sides, her eyes meticulously scanning the yard, as if already mapping its every weak point. Liam Hayes, wearing a sleeveless shirt and a patch that read Big Doog on his chest, smirked to Thorne. "Civilian insert or cafeteria audit," he said. "I give her 3 days before she taps out," he added with a confident pull on his hydration pack. They were a symphony of noise and ego, former military and state-level tactical team members. Their banter a loud mix of brand names and past deployments. Amelia was a silence in their midst, an absence. Major Davis, the first instructor, read off the names with brisk efficiency. Thorne. A hand shot up. Hayes. A nod. Then, a subtle pause. Vance. Amelia. His eyes found her, a flicker of something unreadable on his face before he checked her name off. Thorne muttered. "Vance. That's a librarian's name." Hayes leaned in closer. "Watch. By tomorrow, she'll be organizing the first aid cabinet alphabetically." Amelia stood perfectly still. Her notebook didn't move. Her gaze remained steady, forward. Later, as they jogged past a concrete wall, Hayes jogged closer to her side. "Hope you brought office shoes, ma'am," he whispered, a sneer in his voice. "This week's going to shred those boots." She didn't respond. She didn't even pick up her pace. She held her own calm, steady rhythm. The next drill was a mock raid, a hostage standoff in a fake suburban complex. Marcus Thorne took command without being asked, sketching a plan that banked on pure aggression. Amelia listened from the edge, a ghost again, and noticed a blind corner that Thorne's plan completely ignored. She spoke up once, her voice calm and level. "You'll have a gap at the northeast exit," she stated. "If they circle that flank, it'll cross your line of fire." Thorne didn't even look at her. "Thanks for the audit, Vance," he shot back. "We'll keep that in mind." No one adjusted the plan. The result was a total mess. Entry timing fractured. Recruits went in before the flashbang, and one accidentally shot a wall with a paint round, from the exact blind spot Amelia had warned about. A masked instructor stepped out and tagged 3 of them with simulated kill shots. Thorne froze, Chloe panicked, and Hayes fell into a puddle of fake blood that wasn't even supposed to be there yet. The simulation failed. Hayes pulled off his vest and pointed at Amelia. "We need operators, not observers," he said. Amelia just walked away without a word. In her own notebook, she later meticulously diagrammed every single breakdown and error she had predicted. At midday, the cafeteria was a sea of noise and gear. Amelia entered with her tray, and found every seat taken. Every open space filled the moment she moved toward it. She ended up alone at a metal table in the corner. Her food untouched. From the center of the room, Thorne's voice carried. "Some of us are here to operate, not audit the furniture," he said loudly. Chloe walked over to Amelia, a thin, bright yellow notebook in her hand. "Here," she said with a sugary, mean smile, placing the blank notebook on the table. "Take notes, Professor. You might catch up in a few years." Amelia didn't look up. The whole room watched, but no response came. Chloe walked away. Later in the barracks hallway, Amelia passed two recruits whispering near the lockers. One said, "Just loud enough to be heard, doesn't even scuff the mats. You'd think she was allergic to dirt." The other shrugged, "Probably a quote ill. Optics over output." The cruelty was quiet. A slow burn. Inside her dorm, Amelia sat at her small desk, her real notebook open. She heard them all, the laughter, the subtle taunts. Her pen didn't pause. The next drill compound was huge, a full-scale urban layout with fake storefronts and choked alleyways. Role players were inside with blank firing rifles. Marcus Thorne took the command board like it belonged to him. He assigned everyone their roles, and again no one mentioned Amelia. He glanced at her. "Vance, you can monitor air pressure or something. Make sure the radios don't get bored," he scoffed. Instead of responding, Amelia walked over to the instructor's table and handed him a sealed folder. Inside were her notes, diagrams, a full sweep plan, optimal breach points, and hostage logic. The instructor flipped through a page, paused, then closed the folder and placed it face down on the bench. Thorne barked for loadout, and the team moved. The drill was another disaster. Flashbangs missed, recruits stumbled, and Thorne's commands overlapped into a mess of static and panic. Thorne took a hit to his vest and started yelling into the radio for backup. Back outside, Amelia stood near the command van, her arms loose at her sides, her body subtly shifting forward. Thorne's voice filled the feed, bitter and defensive. This was a mess because people hesitated, distracted by civilians who think they belong in tactical theaters. Suddenly, the whole base intercom crackled to life. Federal Justice Center, hostage situation, real time, real threat. The instructors scrambled, tactical vans screeched out of the motor bay. But inside the compound's command center, no one was in charge. Amelia moved without a sound. She walked calmly to the tactical van and found a senior instructor juggling multiple radios. "I'll take comms," she stated simply. He started to dismiss her, then saw her already slipping on a plate carrier. He gave a tight nod. "Fine, take that station," he said. Amelia sat down, plugged in, and clicked live. Her voice was not loud, but it cut through the chaos like a blade. "This is Command Base 2. Federal response," she said. "Suspect. You are being recorded. You are surrounded. I need you to confirm the number of hostages and the reason you entered the building." The command center went dead silent. Even Thorne froze. The hostage taker shouted into his radio. "I don't know who you are," he cracked. "But I want air support off the roof, and no snipers near the stairwell. You try anything, I start shooting." Amelia's eyes remained fixed on the live feed. "We've already pulled units from the roof," she said. "I get that you're scared, but the way out isn't violence, it's control." A pause. "You don't get it." "No one does," the man said. "I do," Amelia replied. "I've been in tighter rooms than yours, and I've walked out every time. Let me walk you out now." She then opened an encrypted channel. "Agent Mora and Agent Diaz," she said calmly. "Advance from North Alley. There's a rear stairwell unguarded. Cut the second-floor hallway. No sudden movement. Confirm visual before breach. The agents moved into position as the suspect yelled toward the front window, completely oblivious. Amelia spoke one more time, her voice almost gentle. "You've got 30 seconds. Make the right choice. I want you out of there breathing." The man's hands twitched. The rifle dropped. It was over. No one was hurt. Amelia removed her headset and placed it on the table with care. The instructor who had ignored her folder now looked at her as if seeing her for the first time. Thorne sat slumped on the bench, face blank. Ben watched her like a man who had just witnessed something sacred. Amelia adjusted her plate carrier and stood. No grin, no declaration, just the quiet truth laid bare for anyone finally willing to see it. The sky pulsed with the rhythmic beating of helicopter blades. A final evaluation was announced, and the recruits gathered in formation, squinting into the sun. 3 black SUVs pulled up, silent and armored. From the first, 2 federal agents emerged. From the second, a man in a dark suit with a sealed folder. He spoke, his voice cutting through the air. "Yesterday's courthouse rescue was not part of your training," he announced. "And the individual who guided the response from this base is not a recruit." Murmurs rippled through the ranks. The third SUV door opened. Amelia stepped out. Gone was the plain gear. She wore a sharp, tactical suit with the Presidential Counter-Extremism Task Force insignia stitched to the chest. Her badge gleamed. She walked with the same steady gait, the slight limp still there, but now it looked like part of her, not a weakness. The commander announced, "Special Agent Amelia Vance, Senior Field Strategist, credentialed operative in 7 jurisdictions, liaison to the President's office." The recruits were frozen. Thorne's mouth opened and closed. Hayes looked sick. Chloe turned a deep red. The commander lifted his folder. "We reviewed all simulation footage, field notes. Agent Vance's evaluations are precise. Her warnings were ignored. Her observations confirmed a toxic pattern of self-assurance." He started calling names. Marcus Thorne, dismissed. Failure to command under stress. 2 agents approached. Liam Hayes, Chloe Foster, dismissed. They followed, pale and silent. Ben Carter remained, his knuckles clenched. All eyes turned to Amelia. She faced them, her voice calm and firm. "Loud doesn't mean right," she said. "And rank doesn't mean readiness." The words landed like a fact. The commander nodded. "That will be all." The helicopters lifted, and Amelia stepped back toward the black SUV. The commander caught her shoulder. "Well led," he said, simply. The vehicles pulled away, leaving a strange silence and a new kind of clarity. The compound felt different now. The laughter was gone, replaced by a focused silence. The remaining recruits moved with a new sense of purpose. Amelia was no longer there, but her presence lingered. The instructors barked with less sarcasm, more precision. Ben Carter stayed late, replaying the simulation feeds with a notebook in his hand. Then, an offer slid beneath his door: specialized track authorization, Supervisor A. Vance. They met at the training annex. No uniforms, no formality. Ben quietly said, "You said you observe more than you train." "I still do," she replied. She guided his movements, her corrections quiet and precise, a shift in hand placement, a whispered word on timing. He didn't speak much during their sessions, and neither did she. But by the 3rd day, he moved like someone who had learned how to see. On the 4th day, Amelia didn't return. Instead, she left her dog-eared notebook on the steel bench where she had once sat alone. The pages were filled with diagrams and evaluations. A final sentence was written on the last page. "Humility is the most tactical position." He didn't take the notebook with him. He left it there for others to find. Word spread, and soon other recruits were quietly flipping through the pages. One instructor stopped to read a few pages and adjusted his stance, as if standing straighter mattered now. At midday, Amelia walked across the compound one last time. This time, the instructor stood when she passed, not out of habit but out of respect. She didn't slow down, her steps unhurried, her eyes fixed. The black SUV waited at the gate. Before she got in, she paused and looked at the framed photos of past SWAT teams on the wall. Her reflection appeared, a presence layered over the images of the others who had come before. She didn't touch the glass. She just turned, stepped inside the SUV, and was gone. The compound felt different now. The laughter was gone, replaced by a focused silence. The remaining recruits moved with a new sense of purpose. Amelia was no longer there, but her presence lingered. The instructors barked with less sarcasm, more precision. Ben Carter stayed late, replaying the simulation feeds with a notebook in his hand. Then an offer slid beneath his door. Specialized track authorization. Supervisor, A. Vance. They met at the training annex. No uniforms, no formality, Ben quietly said. You said you observe more than you train. I still do, she replied. She guided his movements, her corrections quiet and precise, a shift in hand placement, a whispered word on timing. He didn't speak much during their sessions, and neither did she. But by the third day, he moved like someone who had learned how to see. On the fourth day, Amelia didn't return. Instead, she left her dog-eared notebook on the steel bench where she had once sat alone. The pages were filled with diagrams and evaluations. A final sentence was written on the last page. Humility is the most tactical position. He didn't take the notebook with him. He left it there for others to find. Word spread, and soon other recruits were quietly flipping through the pages. One instructor stopped to read a few pages and adjusted his stance, as if standing straighter mattered now. At midday, Amelia walked across the compound one last time. This time, the instructor stood when she passed, not out of habit, but out of respect. She didn't slow down, her steps unhurried, her eyes fixed. The black SUV waited at the gate. Before she got in, she paused and looked at the framed photos of past SWAT teams on the wall. Her reflection appeared, a presence layered over the images of the others who had come before. She didn't touch the glass. She just turned, stepped inside the SUV, and was gone. Ben's training sessions with Amelia's ghost continued. He reread the dog-eared notebook every night, tracing her diagrams of foot placement and sight angles. Her handwriting, precise and clean, became a kind of silent language for him. He started seeing the drills not as a physical challenge, but as a puzzle. Where were the gaps? Where was the arrogance of his teammates leading to a breakdown? He began to move like Amelia, without wasted steps or loud, performative actions. He didn't seek attention. He sought efficiency. Other recruits noticed the change. They stopped taunting him and started watching. A few even began to ask him questions, to which he would respond with quiet precision, just like her. He didn't mention Amelia. He didn't have to. Her wisdom had become his. Meanwhile, a new recruit, a cocky former military officer named Jack, joined the academy. Jack was a loud mirror of the dismissed Thorn, full of bravado and self-proclaimed genius. During a new simulation, Jack took command. He ignored Ben's quiet suggestions, laughed at his cautious approach, and dismissed him as too soft for the field. But Ben had learned. He stayed on the periphery, watching, observing, and when Jack's plan inevitably fell apart, Ben was there. He moved into the chaos, a calm force of nature, and successfully completed the objective while Jack and his team were bickering over their failure. the instructors took notice. Amelia's presence began to permeate the entire academy. The blank notebook Chloe had given her was found by an instructor, who read the final page and placed it in the central briefing room. It became a new, unofficial rule: humility is the most tactical position. The phrase became a mantra, a silent reminder of what true strength looked like. The remaining recruits began to train differently. They checked each other's gear with quiet seriousness. They worked together as a team, not as individuals. The entire culture of the academy had shifted from one of loud ego to quiet professionalism. One day, a new high-ranking official came to observe the training. He watched in silence as the recruits performed flawlessly, working together like a well-oiled machine. He saw Ben, a quiet leader, directing the team with a subtle nod or a precise hand signal. He saw the instructors, now more respectful and precise, guiding their teams with a new sense of purpose. He saw the academy, once a place of showy bravado, now a place of quiet excellence. The official nodded to a nearby instructor, a silent acknowledgement of the transformation. Months passed. Ben had become a respected leader in the academy. His quiet strength had earned him the trust and admiration of his peers. He had come to understand that leadership wasn't about being the loudest or the strongest. It was about being the most observant, the most prepared, and the most humble. On graduation day, the academy was filled with proud families and high-ranking officials. Ben stood at the podium, a new kind of hero. He didn't give a loud, boastful speech. Instead, he spoke of quiet strength, of unseen heroes, and of the importance of humility. He spoke of the lessons he had learned, not from a textbook, but from a quiet woman with a slight limp and a worn notebook. He didn't mention her name. He didn't have to. Everyone knew who he was talking about. He ended his speech with a final line: "The greatest victories are not won with noise, but with silence." After the ceremony, Ben walked over to the display case where the old SWAT team photos were hung. He looked at his own reflection, layered over the images of the past. He saw not a man of ego, but a man of humility. He saw not a man who sought glory, but a man who sought truth. He saw not a man who commanded with a loud voice, but a man who led with a quiet presence. He then walked to the far end of the compound, to the steel bench where Amelia had left her notebook. He sat down, took out his own notebook, now just as worn as hers, and began to write. He wrote about the lessons he had learned, the truth he had found, and the legacy he would carry. He wrote about the shadow leader, the unseen hero, the woman who had changed everything without ever seeking recognition. He knew that her story would live on, not in a loud, boastful speech, but in the quiet, precise actions of the men and women she had inspired. The silence that now hung over the Guardian Tactical Academy was more powerful than any noise had ever been. It was a silence of reflection, not of emptiness. After Ben's graduation speech, many of the younger recruits, those who had arrived after the incident with Amelia Vance, sought him out. They had heard the legends, the rumors, but seeing Ben, the quiet recruit who had been dismissed by the very men they aspired to be, stand on that stage, it was different. It made the whispers real. They asked him questions, not about his heroics, but about how he had changed, how he had learned to see what others missed. Ben didn't give them a textbook answer. He just pointed them toward the steel bench where Amelia's notebook had rested. He told them to find the notebook left there, to read it, and to pass it on. And so a new tradition was born. The notebook became a sacred text, passed from hand to hand, its pages becoming softer with each passing day. The recruits would read the diagrams, the evaluations, the notes on foot placement and timing, and they would see the wisdom of a woman who had never sought recognition. One night, a recruit named Mark, who had been a vocal critic of the new culture, was sitting alone on the training mat. He was struggling with a complex tactical problem, one that required collaboration and humility, two things he still struggled with. He had scoffed at the notebook tradition, seeing it as a sign of weakness. But in his moment of frustration, he remembered a line from Ben's speech: "The greatest victories are not won with noise, but with silence." He looked around the empty mat, then back at his notebook. He took a deep breath, and he began to write, not about his failure, but about his observations of the failure itself. He was learning. The scar on Amelia's right knuckle was not from a training exercise. It was from a real hostage situation, years ago in a cramped apartment building. A hostage-taker had cornered a family, and Amelia's team had been tasked with the impossible. They had breached the door, but the suspect had managed to get a knife to the throat of a child. Amelia had moved in a flash, not with a gun, but with her hands, disarming the man and taking a deep cut to her knuckle in the process. The child was saved, but the scar remained. It was a reminder of what mattered, of the quiet bravery that did not seek applause, but only sought to save a life. It was this scar, this history, that had given her the wisdom to see the arrogance in Thorne and the others. She had seen their bravado as a weakness, a liability in the field. She had seen their desire for glory as a distraction from the real mission to protect and serve. She had seen it all before. And she knew that in the end, in a real crisis, it was not the loudest voice that won, but the quietest. Her wisdom was now etched into the very fabric of the academy. The instructors, once hardened and cynical, now spoke of the Vance method. They taught not just the physical movements of tactical operations, but the mental discipline of humility and observation. They taught their students to look for the gaps, to listen to the silence, to trust their instincts, and to seek efficiency over glory. Months turned into a year. The academy, once a place of bluster and ego, was now a quiet hub of excellence. The graduation ceremony was different now. The speeches were shorter, the applause quieter, the air filled with a new kind of respect. The graduates were not just trained soldiers, they were tactical strategists, quiet professionals, shadow leaders. Ben, now a senior strategist, was tasked with evaluating a new batch of recruits. He watched them from the same glass-paneled briefing room where Amelia had once watched him. He saw the same bravado, the same arrogance, but he also saw something new, a quiet recruit standing in the corner with a worn notebook in his hand. He was just like Ben had been, and just like Amelia had been. He was a shadow, a ghost, a quiet force of nature. Ben approached him after the drill. "You observe more than you train," he said, the words a quiet echo of Amelia's own. The young recruit looked up, startled, then smiled. "I'm learning," he said. Ben nodded. "Good," he said. "Good." He left the recruit to his work, his own notebook in his hand, a testament to the legacy he would carry. He knew that Amelia's story would not be told in a loud, boastful speech, but in the quiet, precise actions of the men and women she had inspired. Her story would live on in the shadows, in the silence, in the unsaid words, a testament to the power of humility and the courage of the unseen hero.